kind of make a little introduction as usual, then cover the stuff that happened throughout the last year, and then
go from
let's
there.
see
All right.
where
we're live. So no spill on the beans now. No cool. No.
Yeah,
right.
hold all the surprises
hold all the juicy
until
stuff.
we announce them. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I'm just making sure that we're live. I'm just quickly check everything. Yeah, I think we're good. Okay, cool. Okay, g'day everybody. Welcome to it was like October. I was going to say September. October's of 2022 meetup. Yeah, it's really, really exciting. I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes, I think, just for everyone else to pop in. I'm actually a little concerned because it is daylight savings in the southern part of Australia, and 7 o'clock, it's technically 7 o'clock for them now. So I'm hoping that they are able to tune in if they haven't. It was Australian Eastern Standard Time, but I know that Brisbane kind of is a bit of an outlier in terms of what the daylight savings are in terms of that. So I'm hoping that people are able to join. I was kind of thinking about it tonight, and I was thinking I should have made some sort of comment with regards to that. So anyway, I can definitely talk a little bit about the DSC stuff. It's really, really interesting. And yeah, like I said, I actually spent ages before was trying to fix the fixed DSC pool server. I broke it so badly, so I had to spend ages trying to fix it. And then the code's not perfect, but I'm getting there. But in terms of, there are some like major bugs that I came across where essentially I was trying to like add a node, and I'm like, why is it not applying the LCM configuration? I'm like, this is so. And then I realized it was my code, so. It was nothing to do with it. It was nothing to do with DSC. It was just my code. I'm not deciding to not work. So, but yeah, I'll just quickly So, and obviously I'll just also do a bit of a plug about the book as well. I'll talk a little bit about book of news from Ignite, and then I'll hand you the floor. So, what's been happening in terms of anything interesting within the band?
In the band?
It's
a little bit. We're a little bit on hiatus, I would say. We haven't practiced, rehearsed since beginning of the year. So we have to go back, and we lost the bass player, but we found a new one. So technically we have everything we need to make a lot of noise. So we are thinking about maybe putting something together for our Christmas party in December. We'll see.
That sounds cool. It actually reminded me, I saw this thing and I just thought of you. I saw this thing on YouTube. This guy was building this kind of like, he had this e-bike and he's got like this little camper trailer that he puts on the back. It's got solar panels and he like rides all around the place. And one of the places he was riding to, it's called Joel Fest. And it was his mate Joel and a whole bunch of mates of them. And they just have this day where they go out to this guy's house. He's got a farm and they just have like a music festival. And it's like 50 of them, but they're all they're all musicians. So they all just get up and play their set, and then everyone else can kind of just chill out. So it's actually a really, really cool kind of concept. Yeah. Everyone just kind of rock up there, and it's like any sort of music festival. Some guys sitting in an inflatable pool full of water, and drinking beer. So
yeah. I think if you have a bigger this bunch of musicians, I think it's always fun. Because different styles.
Yeah, different styles, different
kind
concepts.
Of music.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. I think we'll just give it a couple more minutes and then we'll kick off. I just want to make sure everyone in chat can hear me on Twitch. Oh, yep, I think so. All right, cool. I think, we'll just give it another minute and then we'll kick off. Yeah. So I'm hoping with regards to the DSC stuff, I've got a couple more things to do. Like I'm starting at the process of writing unit tests now. So I'm getting, stuff's starting to become quite serious. So
Okay.
Yes,
Ooh.
which is really good. So I think that I would I'm actually really excited to do a proper demo in terms of just the what like I
Yeah.
showed you before, it's remarkably boring.
No, but this is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Alrighty.
Do you have new shirts for your user group? I'm just seeing your
Um,
polo here also
this
with.
is 2020s.
Really?
Yeah, I
Okay.
haven't created any new ones lately.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just spotted our logo there, so I didn't know that you had that. Right. That's cool.
I don't think I have any. Yeah, I gave them all away, so I can't get you a shirt.
All good.
Yeah. Okay, what we might do is we'll kick off. G'day everybody. Welcome to this month's October meetup. So this month's actually a really exciting month. Every year we get to have our sponsor ScriptRunner to come on and give us a talk. It's always really exciting. I always love working. Actually, I personally work with the ScriptRunner platform, working with a project off to the side, and it's just something that I think is a really cool platform. And I'm always very interested in seeing what the kind of features that are coming out of that. So before we get started, I'm just going to kind of do a quick little plug on some things. So we don't really need to talk about housekeeping because we're not in the building. But I'm just going to quickly share my screen. And just quickly do a quick plug. So talked a little bit about this before. Modern IT automation with PowerShell. The LeanPub version is up. You can basically just jump on leanpub.com, modern automation with PowerShell. It would be modern IT automation with PowerShell. The URL is incredibly long, and so we just kind of shortened it. But jump on LeanPub. It's minimum 40 USD. Basically, all the proceeds go to charity. It's a really great book. I'm just going to quickly just go down. You can have a look in there. There's a free chapter available. So basically, if you just go and read the free sample, we've made the regex chapter available, which is by Nicholas Bissell. Is having the absolute pleasure of working with him. Is a really absolute gun with regex. So you can kind of just go through down the bottom here and you can kind of see a table of contents, and there's a whole bunch of really interesting stuff here. And this book's really tailored for people who have kind of just wanting to get a little bit more into PowerShell after they've kind of finished with their monthly lunches, and they've kind of wanting to see a little bit more what's happening within the community. It really focuses on a lot of more of those advanced concepts. It's not too advanced, but there are some pretty interesting deep dives that get done within that. So I've done multiple chapters on just enough administration, constrained language mode, refactoring PowerShell, advanced parameters within PowerShell. So you can essentially, there's lots of really interesting stuff within there. And you can see there's unit testing, mocking, parameterized testing. Yeah, really in-depth stuff within here. Like I said before, all proceeds go to charity. It's basically for the on-ramp program, to support marginalized people and get them bootstrapped into IT. So, that's... the paperback version is coming. I'm still waiting on the preview book to be delivered to me so I can do the final read off and just make so many sort of amendments to formatting to the manuscript, just because what happens usually when you do a printout, there's some sort of weird margin issue. So we're going to be trying to finish that sooner rather than later. I need to get the book. The other thing, which is probably, and I think Wayne, you could probably talk a little bit more about this as well, was Microsoft Ignite happened. So I'm just going to stop sharing. There's a whole bunch of really interesting stuff, especially within the feature sets that are coming out from Microsoft Ignite, especially around security. Tons of stuff. Hybrid within hybrid. Azure Hybrid. Lots of really interesting stuff around there as well. So I'm just going to quickly paste the link for the book of news in chat. So definitely, whoops, I just actually already had it pre-pasted. Look at that. Oh, okay. It just kind of double pasted. Oh, weird. So definitely recommend you guys go and have a bit of a look at that. Lots of really interesting stuff around there. I just kind of talk through a couple of things here. So we've got Oh geez, I kind of lost my my tabs. Oh, okay. But it really just, yeah. So I kind of I just talked about like 365 Defender. It just keeps getting better and better. That's probably the best way to describe it now. It's got really, really good machine learning algorithms applied to it now. And it's obviously having the ability to be able to disable ransomware stuff, or ransomware within your environment. There's other things within there like loop apps in private preview, Microsoft Syntax. Yeah, lots of really interesting stuff around there. So definitely recommend checking it out. It might solve a lot of your problems or introduce some new ones. So you can see there, Wayne just posted a quick link. I'm just going to post that into the Twitch chat. So you can kind of just have a quick look in there. And that can, yeah, can go from there. I think without any further ado, we can introduce our esteemed guests from ScriptRunner. We've got Haiku and sorry, where and is it Marcus? Sorry.
Yes.
Yes, perfect.
It's Marcus,
so, yeah, perfect. Alrighty. So the floor is all yours.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks. It's this time of the year again, right? It's like the same procedure as every year, James. So it's about, talking about our PowerShell management solution. And today I have Marcus with me. So he will also showing some, I think, interesting new stuff later on. So we will make a quick introduction into what we do in general for people who might not know us yet. And I'm going to share my screen in order to do that. That should have worked. And and then we will talk about the things that happened the last 12 months always, I think, or almost. I think this is when we had our last session here. And so the goal of ScriptRunner is to unlock the power of PowerShell. That's the overall goal. So to simplify the way that you develop, manage, and delegate PowerShell. That's basically what we do. We are based in Germany. We've been around since 2014. Right now we are about 25 people altogether. This is us, part of the team at least, trying to form the PowerShell logo. Partly succeeded. And last number here, this is 18, 19. These are the scripts that we provide on our GitHub repository. That you can go to github.com/scriptrunner/action-packs, and there are 1,800 plus scripts for all kind of platforms and use cases, starting with things like AD, Exchange, Office 65, Azure, VMware, Citrix, a lot of other platforms and use cases. So that's really, I think, a helpful source depending on where you are in your PowerShell journey. And other things that we provide, and I think I'm going to paste that into the chat. We have this PowerShell poster. It's like a get help for your office wall. We have a security ebook. We have a cheat sheet for PowerShell and Teams and for PowerShell and Exchange. And there will be more coming in the future. But so you welcome to go there and just grab it. And it's really things that help you in your daily business when you're working with PowerShell. And and if you want to get in touch with Marcus and me, of course we are on Twitter, on LinkedIn. You can write us a good old email, and also find some stuff, actually including also this presentation on my GitHub repository. All right, so quick introduction, what ScriptRunner is all about. So the main theme of ScriptRunner is centralizing all the PowerShell logistics, I like to call, and then as the goal to standardize, automate, and delegate all kind of recurring tasks as long as they can be implemented based on a PowerShell script and a module. And then there are 3 ways to triggering these scripts interactively by user scheduled or event-driven based on REST APIs or on what we call an email inbound connector. And then we have a reporting monitoring engine that allows you to see what's actually happening. And we will show you that also in a demo, just a few screenshots here so you get an idea. So this is our new reporting engine that allows you to see in detail what actually happened, which script got executed by which user. You can drill down, you can see which user started or which machine started a script, what has been the system that has been connected, what we call a target. Then you see all the parameters that have been used, and you see the result that came back from, if it's an interactive execution, what the user saw when this action got executed. And of course, you can drill down to see if things that didn't work, so you can analyze, find out what happened if necessary. Then there is a different view on that automation topic, which is like answering typically management questions like, why do we even automate? How much time and money did we save? So what you can do, you can, in each action, you can define the time that you save compared to doing things manually. And then we calculate how often this use case or action, as we call them, has been executed. And then you can also add an hourly rate to it, and then you get rate to it, and then you get a cost saving estimation as well. And then coming back to the technical aspect, we have a live monitor. I think this wasn't there the last time we talked, not sure, but anyway, it is something that helps you to see in real time what happens right now, which script got executed. And you can see the details that happens in the background. You could even cancel the execution if necessary. And let's say you in an environment where you might end up with having multiple ScriptRunner instances, you would also see all this activities from all the machines that you might run in the background. And as I said, one of the main themes really, or the main theme is centralization, and we are centralizing the scripts and modules, and which means you have a web user interface where you can have access to all your scripts. You can have different owners, so we have the concept of ownership, so you can make sure that if you have an environment where you have people from the Azure team and from the Office 65 team, and you want to make sure the Azure guys are not messing around with the Office 65 scripts or credentials or actions, then you can define who is able to use a script, a credential, or whatever. And you can have direct access also to the script. So there is a browser-based code editor that you can enable, of course, typically only if you're not using things like Git or Azure DevOps in the background, where you would not like to make changes to the scripts this way, because this would obviously kind of undermine your pipeline and your testing process. But in cases where that's not available yet or it's not implemented yet, this is a good way to start working on scripts together, having multiple people to contributing scripts or also to adding new scripts, importing scripts also from our GitHub repository, for example. So this is where the scripts management is really simplified. And then, of course, an important topic, credential management, something that, thanks to the Uber hack a few weeks ago, was in the news again. And as always, remember this one here, right? Don't store credentials in PowerShell scripts. I think that's, everybody knows it, but obviously it still happens. So one of the things that where ScriptRunner helps you to achieve that is you can, well, we support hazard servers. So you can use right now hazard servers from CyberArk, Pleasant, and Psychotic to pull out credentials in real time whenever there is a script that once needs to connect to a backend system, and then ScriptRunner is going to ask for the credential in real time, using that to open the connection, running the script, and then once that's done, the credential obviously is only stored and stays in the password vault. When it comes to the delegation and saying, okay, I would like to take this script to start an onboarding, for example, spin up a new VM. I would like to delegate that to somebody in help desk or maybe even end users. And typically, of course, today you would, with PowerShell natively, you most probably would not do that because number one, do the people know how PowerShell works? Do you want to give them privileged permissions in your backend system? Probably, most probably not, for good reasons. And so one of the things that comes with using PowerShell together with ScriptRunner is that we're separating where PowerShell happens and where the user interaction happens, which means here on the right side, we have what we call here the ScriptRunner zone. So this is where PowerShell happens. So this is where the ScriptRunner has access to the scripts, to the modules, to the credentials, and to the system that you want to manage. So this is where the actual PowerShell happens. Then here on the left side, where you might have users or systems that you want to enable to trigger scripts, they don't need to have any access to the systems over here, meaning also, of course, they don't need to have any privileged permissions to do anything in the systems because these users are talking to ScriptRunner. And in ScriptRunner, you decide what kind of use cases, what kind of tasks these people / systems should be allowed to trigger. And by separating these two things, this is really opening up, of course, the way or the possibilities to really delegate things in a secure way and without the need of giving these people all kinds of permissions, which you probably obviously don't want to do for very good reasons. And last but not least, when we talk about this delegation process, of course, it's also about how easy is it for user to work with PowerShell without knowing that it's PowerShell, so to speak. So that means that what happens in the background when you're using, again, PowerShell with ScriptRunner is that we're automatically translating every PowerShell script into a web user interface. And so that by what you see on the right side is really just an input form. It can be integrated in any website. And so it's really just something where there are a couple of parameters that might be selectable for the user, and that's it. So no need for these people to be able to use PowerShell on the command line, knowing the commandlets, and so on. So it's really about making it as easy as possible. And depending on what you want these people to be able to do, you can delegate all kinds of tasks. So here, each of these tiles represents a task. And then, of course, underneath, we have at least one script. And so you decide based on the delegation what these people are able to do. And then they can open up these actions, and then they see what you have configured as, okay, these are like in this case Azure, these are the regions that they can pick, these are the types of VMs that they can pick, these are whatever the category might be. So to make sure people not having any kind of plain text field where they can type in all kind of crazy stuff, probably the wrong things, and then it comes back with an error. So it's about simplifying the whole process for the user and also keeping in control of what these people are actually able to do. And then here, the last one, this is kind of the same use case that we just saw in the other screenshot, but now it is integrated as an iframe in a website. And that's, I would say, the most easiest way to integrate what we're and to work with, let's say, again, PowerShell without knowing that it's PowerShell. All right. So before we're just showing you a few things, I would also go over the new stuff, and then we are switching to the demo environment and go through all the different topics. Because since last year, we added quite a few things. One of the things that I think is especially interesting for bigger environments and for bigger companies where they are in multi-language scenarios. We support, besides German and English, which we already supported now, we support French and Spanish. And how that looks like, I will show you, because that also relates to what you can do in your scripts. We introduced a new portal dashboard. I already showed you a few examples, which I think is even easier to use. It's easier to get to the information. The overall user experience has changed. One of the reasons is we hired a UX designer, which is always a good idea, I think. And so we'll see a lot of good things happen and making things easier in the user interface. We also added an advanced MS Graph support. We will show you this as well. Also the way that you can manage your credentials and targets. And yeah, there are many other things, and including some new bulk operation options. And we will also show you something that we just released as a pre-release last week in the marketplace, which is the latest thing that we've done, which is a VS Code extension to manage your scripts. And Marcus will show us this later on. So let me just pull out my demo environment. And but first, let me see, are there any questions so far in the chat or something? No. Okay. All right. All right. So multi-language support. What does that mean? So let's say you have let's start with a very simple example. Reset password scenarios. So now we are English, and up here I can switch now to 4 languages, which means the parameter descriptions can be localized, the description of the action itself to describe what it actually does. So this is all aiming for giving the people all the information that they need so they know what actually happens with this use case. And so it can be, so the nice thing about this here, you can use markup, which means you could also do things like integrating a screenshot, telling the people like, okay, what you're going to do the result will look like this. There will be an AD report that shows you all the details of your Active Directory, for example. So, and the way that, for example, this switching of the parameters works, I can show you. I will start using the good old ISE. Don't be afraid, but it's still, and we're going to switch to the VS Code later. Let me just show you how that works. So here, this is how you can define and manage the behavior of the parameter descriptions depending on what language the user is choosing. And so we have this language prefixes for German, English, French, and Spanish. And this is how you decide, when I'm switching language right here, what parameters descriptions are being displayed. And I think that that's really a cool thing, because this is another way, an additional option about and the things how you can define the behavior of the user interface by what you're doing in your script. So this is, I think, really a cool thing. And another thing that, for example, also applies right here. Let's switch to a language that I understand. That, for example, here you have the possibility to say, okay, this is like about a password reset, and it has to follow certain rules. And if I'm not doing the things correctly, which means I'm switching the user here. By the way, this is a dynamic query. So if I'm switching the OU, I see the people from the other OUs. This is how you lead the user step by step through what they should be allowed to do. And then, okay, I need to obviously have 16 characters. I need to have a number and a special character. As long as I'm not doing the things correctly, down here, the play button in the lower left corner is grayed out. So I have to do the things correctly, which means I should type in a number and a special character, and then I can run this action. And again, this is controlled by what you're doing in your script. Going back here, this is done based on the validate pattern, as we just talked about. Regex, regular expressions. I stole that somewhere and modified it a little bit because I'm not that expert there, but it works. And so this is how we make sure that in this case, the people are following the rule and of this in this case, the password parameter. And that typically would not work by default if you're having a secure string, right? Because a secure string means we will not be able to check this information. So what we also introduce in different areas actually is different dedicated help message parameters, which allows us, which means here that the input is not visible. So we see all this asterisk appearing, and we are still able to analyze it. And then later on in the script, we change it into a secure string. So then it can be used for actually running the setAD user commandlet. So again, just a few things, little things that help you to work with PowerShell, I think even better by adding this additional functionality. And coming back to this information right here, so what can you provide? And then I will go to the portal, but this time I'm in the portal as an administrator, and we will take a look at this use case. And because there are additional display options, and in these display options, you can define for these different 4 languages that we just talked about, what do you want to show as the description? What should be available? What do you want to show here in the extended description? You could change the icon, the color, whatever. You can have a preview about, let's see, okay, how that's going to look like. So that again, the goal here is to make it as easy as possible for the users to understand what this particular action is doing. All right, monitoring. I already showed you a little bit about this new engine here. So this is our reports engine. So I see all the activities. I can drill down. I have all kinds of filters. I want to find out about all the things that have been done, maybe in Office 65, for example. So I can filter that. And I could also say I only want to see where things didn't work. And so here, for example, I have user Tina. She tried to do something with a VM. In this case, it's VMware in the background. And I could hopefully see, well, not really in detail what went wrong, but ideally I would see, okay, maybe some connection error has occurred or something like this. And if things work correctly, of course, I can see, okay, there have been some topics can see, okay, there's a lot of schedule things going on here, but also interactive stuff. So all the activities and all the execution of scripts becoming part of this report engine. Statistics, I think we already had this last year, so I think we can skip that pretty much. And but what's really interesting, I think, is the live monitor, because the live monitor shows what's happening right now. So if I'm starting something like this, that takes a little bit, we can just switch back to the live monitor and we can see, okay, there's this user Tina, she started this action, and we can look into it and to see and to find out what's going on. And we could even say, okay, if it takes too long or it does something completely we don't want, then I could say, okay, let's cancel the execution. And so I think that's really, so as reports show you the history of things that happened, Live Monitor is here to show you what happens right now. And you might realize we have 2 categories on top, running and queued, which means running is what happens right now, and queued actions might be things that happen if, for instance, you have a cloud target like Office 365, like Exchange Online, for example, and there are thresholds like, okay, if I am only allowed to have 10 parallel connections to talk to Exchange or to Teams or whatever. And so what you can do in the configuration of what we call the targets, especially for these cloud targets, what you can do is you could say, okay, I want to limit the number of executions. So say I want to only allow 10 parallel connections, and then I want to decide what should happen if this limit, the threshold is being reached. And instead of just throwing an error and canceling the execution, you could say, I'm adding this to the queue. And then this, whatever is being executed here, stays in the queue until a connection is available again. And if we have this scenario, then you would see here in the, okay, so this is the report that we created. Then you would see in the live monitor, you would see that, okay, there are also some queued actions piling up here, and you could go in here and to find out, okay, what that happens. And as I said, so if the connection becomes available again, then these queued actions will be automatically become active, being executed. And yeah, so everything is working smoothly, and again, not throwing errors just because an action or maybe even a query execution has caused to reach the connection limitations. Okay, so the overall user experience and the way that we build our portal has also changed. So for example, we introduced a dashboard. So if I'm an administrator and using the portal, I start with the dashboard, so I get some general overview about, okay, what actions have been executed, what is my license, I have direct access to the documentation. Documentation is actually also a good point, because there's a lot of work happened there, especially into our coding guide, which shows you, if we go there, a lot of examples how you can manage your behavior of your scripts by what you do, the user interface, by what you're doing in your scripts. For example, things like I just showed you with this, for example, regular expressions. And if I am, so if you're doing something, if you're doing this in the script, how does this translate to the behavior in the user interface? So there are all these examples like, okay, this is the code and this is how it translates to what you do in your scripts, which also I think includes, which I'm going to show you also quickly, like this bulk process. And I think we even talked about this maybe the last time or something, where like, okay, how can I enable people to just take a CSV file or text file and throw it into ScriptRunner and saying, okay, this CSV file contains all the users I need to create now, or all the VMs I need to create. And again, we introduced a special parameter type, which is called from file, and that automatically translates into this dialog where you can just either select or drag and drop a file, and then the data is used in the background according to what you do with this data in your scripts. So the coding guide is a very cool place to find out about all these different options that you have, things that you can do in your scripts. And so we added, since the last time, we already had the credentials in it, I think. So you can manage the credentials, you can manage your scripts, including this little editor, which is actually the Monaco editor, which is kind of the same, I think we see in VS Code, which is going to be the next thing. So you can have the access to the script, you can check out scripts, you can check in scripts, You can see the version history, you can see the diffs here, and you can see where a script is actually being used. You can also add new scripts, or writing scripts directly from scratch, so to speak. There are even some templates depending on what you would like to create here. And and you can import scripts from our GitHub repository as well. So if we go to the import section here, you can either drag and drop your scripts right in here, or you can have access to the scripts that we provide and say, okay, I want to have this script in my environment, and then, oops, I haven't selected it. And then, whatever. Let's just take one. Yeah, so it's loading. I can preview it. I can see, okay, what this script is actually doing, and then I can import this. So this is all. The goal here, obviously, is to make it as easy as possible to manage all your scripts. Then the target section is now available as well in the portal, including now a special type of target for managing graph. So if you have an Office 365 target, you can decide what kind of backend do you want to manage with this target. And if you and one of the things that you can choose here is MS Graph. So meaning in the background, you have your app registrations, you put in your client secret, and the logistic kind of is done. And then whenever you choose to use this target later on, we know where to connect to and how to connect to. So the credentials and all the secret stuff is, again, of course, stored in a secure way. And so I think I mentioned this also last year. So we are still on the journey of moving all the things, all the bits and pieces of ScriptRunner from our good old admin app, which is this one here, to the portal. And there are two categories left to do for us, and that happens right now, and we will see the result, I guess, by the end of the year, where everything will be part of the portal. Since until then, things like queries and actions are part of the admin app still, where you configure the queries, like what kind of selections do you want to show to the users, which could be based on simple AD queries, graph queries, scripted queries, and then to use them in what we call actions, where all these different bits and pieces come together, which means, for example, let's take this example here, to manage out of Office or to manage VMs. And then you can see the details here about, okay, what is the system that we want to manage? What are the scripts that we are using? And one of the things that we see quite a bit happening more and more is when people asking, okay, if somebody is doing something, how can we get the information about what has been done actually? Of course, we can send out the good old emails, but what you could also do, of course, I take this example here because I just tested it and it should work, hopefully, where I want to stop a VM, for example, and then I say I want to push the information of what I'm doing here into a Teams channel. So which means as a second way of communicating changes in the system, you could do something like this. This is from an Exchange example. So somebody triggers a notification because maybe somebody calls in sick, and then you can use the information about what we know about what happened, like, okay, what has been triggered, what has been used as the start and end date of this absence, what is the notification. The new one just came in, I guess. No, not yet. Anyway, so you can use all this information, like, okay, in this case, which mailbox has been managed, who triggered the execution, and from which machine this action got triggered. So you can use all the information that we have in the background as part of our of our own little hash table that contains all this information, and you can use that to directly push important information into a channel. If this is the most important information, I don't know, but it's just an example of showing you that you can use all kinds of information. Like, and this, so here, this is the one that we just did. So the way that this works is also pretty simple. Let's go back here. And I think it's this one here. So we are using the number one. You could obviously, you could decide if, okay, this should be happen. It just happens every time. I didn't do it the nicest way, but I just thought, okay, it works. So what I'm doing here, I'm collecting some information from our hash table, like, okay, which user triggered this execution? This is the started by information. I took the information, okay, from which machine somebody triggered an execution and what's the name of the action. And then I take this information plus additional information from this particular use case. And then I use a function that is also part of a library script that we provide on our GitHub repository to push this message and taking, okay, this is the action name, what has been done, in this case, what kind of VM has been executed or has been used. So that's something I want to show you because we see this more and more happening because people say, yeah, email is nice, but it would be great if we can push out the information as directly if something happens, especially if it's some critical information. And so that's, I think, something that really helps in the way that you communicate and the way that it's that's used in the configuration is also pretty straightforward. Like in this one here, we have obviously a parameter for the webhook URL, and of course we are hiding it. So one of the features that we have for a long time to say, okay, this is something we need for the execution of the script, but we will definitely not want to expose this to our users. And then, like in this case, because I wanted to make it a choice for the people who are using it, I said, okay, you can set if you want to push this information to a channels, and if you as a company say this should happen all the time, and you switch it on and then you hide it, and then it happens all the time. So to kind of make sure everything is working always the same way to, yeah, you expect it. Okay, there's some question coming. Would it be able to push events to Azure Event Hub, for instance? If there is a way to do that via PowerShell, definitely yes. I haven't done it yet. No experience in this direction. But if there's a way to do it via PowerShell function, definitely you can do this as well. The same is obviously true for other use cases where you want to write some information in the good old Windows event log on the machine. Of course, there's a command that for doing that, so you could do this as well. All right. So, and with this, I would say, Marcus, I see your excitement. Yeah.
So just waited for you to finish.
Yes, perfect. So as mentioned, we just released a pre-release. I want to emphasize on that, of our VS Code extension, and Marcus is going to show us how that looks like. And this is like so we had the add-on for the PowerShell ISE for almost forever, I would say. And we had this question all the time, like, okay, when are you going to have this available for VS Code? And now it is available.
Yeah, so it's available for people like me who don't work as much with the ISE. I know, shame on me, but I prefer to work with VS Code. And now we released a tech preview of our VS Code extensions a few days or a few weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. So during my days off. So I'm not the specialist of this extension. I'm
don't worry.
So I just installed it a few days ago and I clicked around, but I will show you how it works. So at first, I will post a link in the chat for the download on our in our coding guide. But there's also a way to download it in the VS Code marketplace. So just go to the extensions button in VS Code and type in ScriptRunner, and then you can see the ScriptRunner for VS Code. If you want to install it, you have to switch to the pre-release version. So just let me show you that in because it's already installed here, and just let me show you that on another VS Code instance. Share the complete screen. So this is my other VS Code. There's the extension is not installed, so you can just type in ScriptRunner, and there's the ScriptRunner for VS Code extension. And then is the small install button here, but you can switch to install pre-release version, and then you should be able to install it. Okay, just let me switch to my VM again. So here the VS Code extension is installed, and all you have to do for configuration is enter the URI of your ScriptRunner instance and check in the skip certification check, and then the extension just loads the scripts automatically from your ScriptRunner script repository. This is the button for the ScriptRunner extension, and these are all my scripts. Just let me close all the windows here, and these are all the scripts in my script repository. You can click on it for a preview, and if you want to work on it, you have the possibility to check them out. So as you can see, not all the scripts are enabled for checkout. So if you want to see all the scripts which are enabled, you can filter them. And now you can see all the scripts which are ready for the checkout. And if you hit the checkout button, you see that the script is checked out. And if you hover over it, you see some kind of tooltip by which user the script is checked out, and some other information like the owner or the tags in ScriptRunner or when it was last modified. And then you can do some changes. Just let me change this import module statement, and then we can save it, and then we can check it back in, and then you have the possibility to comment the check-in, first comment, and then it's checked in again, and yes, so that's the way you work with the ScriptRunner extension in Visual Studio Code. Yeah, that's cool. I think that's all to say about the tech preview. I think in the near future there will be added some more features, but that's it for now.
Very cool. Thanks. Yeah. So this is like the way to directly manage the scripts in your environment, and kind of similar to what the ISE does. So the reason why I'm always using the ISE was we didn't have this plugin. We only had it available for the ISE. So now even the old man is going to switch, and I'm going to use the VS Code, because obviously that's the way to go. And having this possibility. So one thing that needs to be configured, of course, is the repository that you want to talk to, and you need to have the permissions. You need to be a script administrator permission-wise, so that you're able to connect. That's exactly the same way that it works already for what we did in the ISE. And yeah, but I think this is really something, and especially having it available in the marketplace is really, I think, a great step forward. And as Marcus said, we will add new options here as well.
Yeah, and there's a question in the chat, a random question, any way to test run a checked out script? So a checked out script in ScriptRunner is not possible to test, but what you can do is you can download our SRX environment PowerShell module locally on your development environment, and then you can test the scripts outside of ScriptRunner with all the options you have in ScriptRunner. So I post a link to the module, and I think that's the best way to test scripts when they are checked out in Visual Studio Code. Just give me a second. You can download it from the PowerShell gallery, but I post the link into the chat.
Yeah, and maybe in the meantime, I'm just quickly showing what that means. Again, for me, still in the good old ISE, but the functionality-wise, it's the same result. We have this SRX env hash table that can or is not containing information that you want to use in your scripts, and you want to test a script that, okay, if it contains a particular IP range, how should that script react and stuff like that. So you can use that information. And now with this extension that Marcus mentioned, exactly the same way in VS Code now. And that gives you all the access again to what we provide. And this is also part again of our coding guide. I think we have all this information available in the coding guide.
Yeah, sure.
Here it is. Yes. So it's I think it's the module that you just talked about, right? The way you put in the link. I think my machine just frozen. Okay. Here it is. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. So I think we covered all the stuff the new stuff that we added. I would say quite a bit again, and we are, of course, on the way of adding new stuff with every release. So there will be one more release this year, the R5, that will include the queries and the actions, and then we have everything in the new portal. And so there, the admin app will kind of step by step will go away, and everything will be done in the portal. And yeah, just one more thing. If you want to hang out with us, with Marcus and me after the session, maybe again on Friday, you could do that. I know it's not the ideal time for the Australian time zone. We have Thomas Maurer. I think we used to be an MVP, now working in the Microsoft Azure Arc world. A very, very well-known person there, and we will talk about, obviously, automation, ScriptRunner, PowerShell, all the good stuff, and Azure Arc, I guess, and cats, I guess, we will have as a topic. So yeah, feel free to come by. It's also going to be recorded. So yeah, I think that's it for our little update session today.
Cool. Anyway, thank you so much. I was just messaging Wayne while you guys were giving your demos, and it just keeps blowing me away more and more that, you know, every time we kind of give a status update, it's just like it just can't get any better. And then I had a question in mind, and I thought, how are you guys, you know, translating languages across parameters? And then you just literally answer that question like 2 minutes later, and it's just like it keeps getting better, and it's it's just phenomenal. Like, and then obviously I was just looking at the VS Code extension, and I was just like, this is it. This is amazing. Like, this is so good. Just like, here's all your scripts on the side. You know, you can do what you need to do if you've got that. You know, if you need to use it. It's just yeah.
Yeah, and having this also this version history in the background, right, in a central place. Again, as I said, it's of course so many companies have some kind of Git bucket, Azure DevOps in place in the background, but for organizations who do not have that, at least at this point, this is already something that's much better than just putting the script somewhere on a network share and then hoping people are doing the right things and stuff like that. So you just have a much better manageability of all that scripts and everything around it.
Yeah, just yeah, just like I was saying before, it just keeps getting better and better. And it's just one of these things that we just do not understand why, you know, like there's not more wide uptake on this. Sorry, crap, my cat. I just ran over my cat's tail. She's fine. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, thank you guys. Do you want me to do the talk on DSC quickly? Or
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's your session, right? It's when you
yeah, okay.
if you
I
maybe
didn't know,
tease the people about it a little bit, and then I think it would be great.
Yeah, come on, you can't just say DSC and then show nothing. You got to do something now. Yeah.
All right. So, so one of the things I've been working on, kind of in my own time, is just to be able to develop this idea of marrying up desire state configuration with ScriptRunner. So, the idea there is make DSC available to everyone. Whether that's a help desk, you know, any person, and they don't need to understand DSC. So the idea there was to use datum as a medium, and the idea there is essentially to be able to deploy a VM with using configuration management DSC, and automatically deploy onto that extension onto that node wherever you're wanting to deploy. And so I'm going to quickly just. Like, I'm definitely not prepared for this. I'm just going to quickly share my screen. So just quickly turning on Hyper-V.
While you're doing that, Michael,
Yeah.
I noticed that I don't think we had a community edition of ScriptRunner last time we caught up.
Yes. Oh, shame on me. Yes, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, you're right. So the thing is, if you're downloading our software, there is a 30-day trial license included. Now, what happens now with the new versions is when you reach this 30-day limit, you can either say, okay, yeah, I want to purchase a license, or it switches into the community mode, which means you can still use it. There's a limitation when it comes to the number of actions that you can execute per day, but you definitely have something that you can already start to use. So let's say you have maybe some scheduled tasks that you want to run every night for doing some things with your PowerShell scripts. That's I would say totally sufficient to start doing that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for mentioning it. Bad me, I totally forgot about it. Yeah.
No,
yeah,
that's
you're
awesome.
right.
I mean, it's great to be able to do like proof of concepts and stuff like that. You know, you only need a small number of executions to prove how good it is. So
Yes.
yeah, it's very easy for people to get started, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Again, thanks for mentioning it. I totally forgot about it. Yeah. Because it already happened, I think, in spring. So it's it's already so long ago, but it's definitely a very helpful addition. Yeah.
All right. I'll quickly share. I've just kind of fired up the VM. So my ScriptRunner server, I haven't applied a license key, updated the trial, so I can't actually demo it. And I also made a massive code change as of last night. So I'm pretty sure that I've broken a lot of stuff. So I don't really want to demo anything broken, but I kind of want to talk about the concept. So the idea, like I said before, is to be able to take desire state configuration and ScriptRunner and join them together. And this, I was kind of, when I was kind of demoing the process, was explaining that one key thing about automation is that it actually should be boring to the end user. It should be something that, from their perspective, it's something that's got to be transparent. So the idea is that there's, as an end user, you can just basically, punch whatever in, and it does a lot of logic to be able to, and solves a lot of problems to be able to arrive at the destination. And I think a good example is, and I hate to kind of use it, but the Apple keyboard's a perfect example in the sense that the many iterations that went through there in terms of the technical challenges that they faced to arrive at the actual keyboard design they used was the complexity was abstracted away. It just makes it a lot easier. And this is that kind of concept that I was thinking about in terms of, let's make it easy for the user. So one of the things that is a bit of a challenge within the size state configuration, just want to make sure everyone can see my screen. Can everyone in
Yes.
the... Yep, cool. All right.
Yeah, it's all good, yeah.
Yeah, mate.
Yeah, so one of the key things within Datum is essentially to be able to actually deploy a script dynamically and dynamically be able to parse the Datum input, the what we call the configuration parameters in dynamically. So this is essentially, we're pre-compiling the YAML configuration within Datum to be able to essentially dynamically build the parameters to be able to generate a VM. So it's one of those things that just looks really, really kind of mundane, but essentially there's a script which gets run. It's just called a publish SR action script. And essentially what this does is it's a script that runs through, and it automatically dynamically builds writes this template script here. And within this template script, within the parameters, it dynamically populates the parameter sets based on the Datum configuration. So if you've got within your Datum configuration here, actually, if I just quickly jump into, yeah, so for instance, if you've got your Datum configuration here, it will look at all the different nodes and security baselines and essentially build the parameter sets around that, so that then it can construct that script. It'll dynamically construct that script, which is kind of interesting though, because the problem with that is the fact that you actually have to dynamically figure out what's actually being passed as parameters, because anything can be passed. So it's this kind of process which enables you to be able to, it's not a static entity. It's basically something that you can just plug in any sort of configuration from Datum, and then basically it goes and figures out what parameters it needs to provide for you to be able to create a new virtual machine within Datum, and then basically that will then essentially create the Datum configuration and then basically deploy that onto an endpoint. So this is kind of I'll kind of show you a quick example. I can't run it, unfortunately. But what it does, it will generate, for instance, this file here called new virtual machine. So if I jump over here, you can see in here essentially what it does, it dynamically builds these parameters out, and each of these validate attributes, which we're just using validate set, are basically parameters that are extracted out of that Datum configuration, which, yeah, it's just kind of this chicken and the egg scenario, which it was very, very interesting kind of interesting problem to solve. But and then as you can see down here, essentially the code is not like a traditional piece of code. It's completely dynamic. So essentially it can take that parameter set, and then from that it'll be able to establish and create a essentially a from a template file a node. And these ones here, so node 1, 02 to 05, these are all dynamically generated using that script. So you can jump in ScriptRunner, you go into the portal, you basically can click on new VM and then basically go through that. And the interesting thing is as well is that by me dynamically updating the script with the updated parameter sets or new parameters, you can add, obviously it's whatever you want to make it in terms of configuration, it will automatically replicate that into the portal. And it does that by basically running this script here called publish SR action, which is basically the meat of the module, which essentially what it does is it goes through and reads all the configuration, then basically it does it reads a template configuration file, and it does some massaging, and it essentially arrives at its destination. And then it essentially does all this complex work to make the endpoint the endpoint look mundane and boring. So that's pretty much it. I'm not going to kind of go into any more detail on that. I'm going to do a deep dive. I've given Heiko a deep dive, and it's very, very interesting, especially from a logic perspective on some of the struggles that had to be overcome. But it's that's something that I've been working on, and the idea there is, just like I said, is to be able to kind of marry those two up. The other thing which is really cool as well is that and this is when you add that node. So for instance, if you create that new virtual machine, it'll automatically, and you can automatically onboard that machine into your DSC pool server. So it'll actually automatically add that, set the LCM configuration, depending on how you have your LCM configured, whether that's using a registration key or whether that's using configuration IDs. You can basically define that, and then essentially it just implements it. And then the next time the datum build runs, which I've got a custom script which runs here, it'll basically iterate through. And what it does is it'll actually cater for both. So it'll generate MOF files, and it also will then keep track of the configuration IDs and automatically build those out as well. So that's going to be it for now.
Yeah, but this is really, thanks. This is cool stuff. And I remember the first time we talked about it and how it developed by all the stuff that you did, and the way your journey, like when you first start trying to use the REST APIs to kind of manipulate our configuration, and then coming up with this idea of having this script that does all that dynamic job, so to speak. It's really awesome. I'm looking forward to the next iteration of that. That's really cool.
Yeah, and so the idea there is I'm going to hopefully have that module, it could be called SRDSC, added into the PowerShell gallery. One of the things I've been working on as well is essentially what you can do is you can jump on your ScriptRunner server. I said I wasn't going to do it, but essentially there's a command there called initialize SRDSC, and what that does is you can actually define you basically define all the top level information where you want datum to be installed, where the pool servers, where you want the pool server to the path to be, the script server path, and basically what it will do is you basically can provide the certificates for DSC pool server either via using your own certificate or basically already a certificate installed, and then you can just go make it so, and it'll automatically build your pool server. It basically sets up, gets everything, it bootstraps the entire process from start to finish. So you're basically, it's one command to get everything set up and then implemented into ScriptRunner. So it's that's the goal, and it's nearly there. I've got a couple more things to do within that kind of space there, so that's something. But I'm hoping to have something done, and obviously in the coming future. So stay tuned.
If I may request a demo, Michael, I know you want to do a deep dive on it because you want to get into all the nuts and bolts of how you made it. But what I would be interested in seeing is, you spinning up an environment, say deploy a domain controller, deploy a file server, deploy a web server, just so we can see how we would use it from a consumer's point of view.
Yeah.
I'd be very interested in seeing that if you're interested in doing a demo at some point.
I could do it. I'm just going to say the demo is going to be so remarkably boring.
Why is that?
Because it's just basically like, hey, what's your compute, target computer name, give it a role, next, like Perfect. It's essentially, and then it's just go, and that's it. Like,
Perfect.
And then you just wait 30 minutes and there you go.
Yeah, awesome. I'd love to see it. Yeah, and especially building a new role as well. Like you might have some bespoke line of business application that you build in-house and you want to deploy that out to a new server. You might have 7 of those. How you build the role, and how do you build 7 of those?
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
So from that circumstance, that's future state. For the moment, I'm focusing on just deploying new VMs. But the idea there is to be able to only focus on VM state management. So that's essentially adding new, removing, updating existing. So you can essentially go, this is an existing VM. I don't know why, but then you can just go and change the role and it'll just go and reapply the configuration.
Okay.
But the idea, like in terms of like the long-term kind of area there is, the idea is that from a, like in this kind of approach from the PowerShell perspective, is the idea is that, the configuration, so like, the YAML files themselves will still remain as is. So they will still be abstracted away and people would still have to manually create roles within that, like, any sort of PowerShell script. But the idea is that to make the kind of front end essentially a lot easier so that people don't necessarily have to go and, manually create a YAML file, or you basically saying, having the confidence to go and tell someone to create a new YAML file, which, yeah.
And that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd normally have like we call them cloud center of excellence type people now, but normally there'd be central IT operations teams. They do the nuts and bolts to make the new roles and all that sort of stuff, define how a server should be, and then anyone can deploy it. Yeah. So it's awesome. Yeah. But you'll know it's configured properly.
Yeah. And that's it. And it's just like, hey, I need this server, make it so. So anyway, I think that's it anyway. I'm going to stop talking. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope you had fun. I did. I always enjoy seeing what's new coming out of ScriptRunner. It's always super exciting. If you've only got any further questions, I think did you mention that you're on Twitter? You can probably reach out on Twitter, LinkedIn, your socials.
Yeah, I posted my contact info into the chat with all email and LinkedIn and Twitter. So if the people want to continue the conversation, I'm happy to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Or do an online session to talk about individual use cases and ideas.
Yeah, too easy. Anyway,
absolutely.
Yeah, that is So if you've got any further questions, I've just pasted it into the Twitch chat as well. So feel free to reach out. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining. I hope you have an awesome night, and we'll probably see you guys next month.
All right. You take care. Bye-bye.
Yeah. Thank you all. Bye-bye.